you action figure enthusiasts out there. JC here along with Salome, and it's Friday, so it's going to be a long weekend, at least for those in the U.S., with Monday being Memorial Day. So hopefully everyone has a great weekend. But before we get into the weekend, we've got quite a bit of news to go over today. Things are definitely starting to pick up on the toy news front. So we'll get into everything. But before we do, let's just do a quick roll call, see who's in the house. John beat in Austin for the first comment of today's stream. That breaks Austin's record. But also Austin is here in a close second, so good to see you guys, both of you. Zim is in the house as well. Good to see you. Chris is here. Good to see you as well. We've got Steve Areno. Greetings, action figure enthusiasts. Same to you, my friend. Hobgoblin's in the house. Good to see you. We've got Kevin Freeze. Made it to Friday. Nice. Mac Zombie's here as well. See, we've got Jay the Grind is here. Good to see you, my friend. Comics 1017 is in the house. Joe is here. What is up, my friend? So looks like we got a pretty good house. So let's just jump into the news. So where do we want to start today? Let's go with, let's start with some DC news. So I think it was Wednesday evening. We got images were released from Spin Master for their new retro collection Superman movie figure. So this is something that had been solicited late last year. I was actually surprised these were not on display at Toy Fair. In fact, when there was no indication of these at Toy Fair, really, I was wondering if these were going to end up getting canceled, being how we had gotten the announcement that, Spin Master and McFarlane were losing the DC license at the end of the year. Well, Spin Master is the end of the year. McFarlane goes into next year. But now I will note here, so these are basically your standard 3.5-inch collection figures. You may recall they did a retro collection Batman Forever figures, which were released exclusively at Target. Now those are 5-inch figures. Those were basically replicating, was it the original Kenner figures from the movie? I feel like with these, Superman, the Superman movie came out in late 70s. These are very much, these look like Kenner Star Wars figures. So I feel like that's why they kind of picked that style, because at the time of the movie, that was kind of the style of action figures. So I don't know. Now, in the original solicitations, there were some other Superman figures that are not shown here. Radioactive Man from Superman 4, I think, was listed. Supergirl from the Supergirl movie of that time period was also listed. There was also Joker and Batman from the 89 Batman movies was something that had been seen. So I hope that actually ends up getting released at some point. Now, one thing to note, like the solicitation information on these figures, Spin Master, I think, got a typo and listed these as 6-inch figures. Again, these are clearly not 6-inch. These are, smaller scale figures. Again, very much in keeping with like Star Wars Kenner figures. So Jor-El has two versions: the white costume and the black, which I think was from deleted scenes, if I remember correctly. I don't think you actually saw him in the black in the original movie release. Superman himself with the necklace that Lex Luthor puts around his neck in Superman movie. So again, very basic articulation. These figures I don't think will cost more than $10. Lois Lane with her pad that says, "I spent the night with Superman." Lex is my favorite because they actually gave him a removable toupee. So in the newspaper about the nuclear missiles. And then finally, they threw in Zod from Superman 2. Well, I guess technically he did appear briefly in the first Superman movie. It would have been cool if we'd gotten all three villains, but it looks like Zod is the only one we're going to get. So, no idea exactly when these will be available or where here in the United States. I believe some overseas places have opened pre orders for these, but again, I have no idea when or where in the United States these will be offered. Thinking maybe Target just because they were the ones to have those Batman ones, but that's purely just a guess on my part. But when I get more details on these, I will be sure to let you guys know. All right, let's keep it with DCE and switch over to McFarlane. So, first of all, just announced the next McFarlane Toy Show, episode 4, is coming next week, May 28th. So, we should be getting some new reveals, maybe some updates. You know, a lot of wonky things coming out of McFarlane these days with how they've been doing orders and things like that. So, hopefully, we'll get some good information out of that. Looks like they're going to be talking about their Elite Edition figures, which the first one we saw was that Doomslayer figure from the from the new video game. So keep an eye out for that. We also this figure, we've seen this popping up overseas, but here in the United States, it has been officially announced as a Target store exclusive. I don't know when it's going to actually show up. I don't think it started showing up on shelves. Definitely not available online at this time. But this is based on Strange Lives of Superman. So with the lion head, this big brainiac type head. So you get multiple head sculpts with this one, kind of a classic look based on a classic comic book story. So again, that one is going to be released as a Target store exclusive. Before we get to other things here, this one, these are part of the DC Collector Edition figures as well. So Hot Girl, another one that we've seen hitting overseas. There's a platinum variant of this one, but this one is going up for pre-order everywhere, including places like Big Bad Toy Store, Entertainment Earth next week on the 28th at 12 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know. I've got to figure there are other figures that will go up on that day, not just Hot Girl. Now, if you go back to WonderCon, so I can get my keyboard to work, which gotta turn it on, would help. So going back to WonderCon, so this was like Hot Girl was in this group with the 2 platinum edition figures. So I don't expect there'll be just straight up pre-orders for these 2 platinum figures. Again, these are ones that we've seen popping up at physical stores, but I don't expect this to again be offered like as a pre-order straight. I could be wrong in that. I mean, like I say, it's been a lot of wonky things with all these platinums and stuff. So I guess we'll have to see. But and then this one, and while it looked like this was going to be a general release, it is now slated as a Target store exclusive. That Superman figure. The next round, I don't know if we'll see any of these go up for pre-order next week. These we have not yet seen hit overseas or anywhere yet. So like Kite Man, which is a pretty unique one. I don't know if we'll start seeing these for pre-order as soon as next week or not, but I guess time will tell. While we're here real quick. These were announced at WonderCon. These are DC Superpower figures. So at WonderCon, these were said to be McFarlane store exclusives. So for the time being, I'm going to continue to go with that. But we are seeing this wave hitting overseas already. So some overseas retailers have gotten this wave in already. So again, here in the United States, these are supposed to be McFarlane store exclusives, but outside of the U.S., other e-tailers are getting them. So when these go up for pre-order on the McFarlane store, I do not know, but hopefully they will be going up soon since they are already starting to hit overseas. Also hitting overseas, some other figures. So Superman versus Godzilla. We knew this one was coming, but this is kind of, I want to say this is our first look at it. Not a great look at it. Can barely see Godzilla in the packaging here, but you can see this one does come with a 7-inch figure and a smaller, page puncher figure. Also, our look at the new 52 Superman figure, which is a gold label figure. I don't know how that will be released here in the United States, but obviously it'll be some type of store exclusive. So this is part of that MonsterVerse line based on the comics. We've seen King Kong and Batman. We saw the other gorilla with Flash, and now we're seeing Superman and Godzilla. Here's a look at that red Cyborg Superman, which again, we talked about that on Wednesday, is going to be another Target store exclusive, along with the regular Cyborg Superman, which right now GameStop seems to have been the only place that have gotten that one. Also, this one popped up on eBay. So also part of the DC Superpower line. This is one we saw overseas listings for, but has not been officially announced yet by McFarlane. This should be a general release. It's the T-Craft for Mr. Terrific from the new Superman movie. No figure included. And I don't even think we've really seen this in the trailers yet, but maybe briefly. But again, another vehicle for the DC Superpowers line. So this showed up on eBay. I don't know. I'm guessing somebody got their hands on it from overseas, but I don't know. Again, I've only seen it on eBay so far. So when more details become available on that one, I'll be sure to let you guys know. But again, for you DC Superpower fans, keep an eye out for that one. We talked about Lex Luthor and the Todd Mod figures on Wednesday, so I'm not going to go over that. So yeah, that's about it for McFarlane News. If you missed Pee Wee at Target's Holothon, it is now available at places like Big Bad Toy Store. We're starting to see all those non-Target exclusives go up for pre-order at other places now. We talked about on Wednesday images. Our first look at the Walmart exclusive version of Shredder Universal Monsters is not yet available. But Walmart did put up some images on their website, had a listing, but then they took it down. But again, giving us our first look at that Walmart exclusive version. But not much else on the NECA front. Masters of the Universe fans. So this is a Target exclusive, but it's a look at the packaging. For this 2-pack, it's He-Man, 80th anniversary He-Man and Skeletor. So, Origins figures. This has been up for pre-order on Target's website for several weeks now. It actually looks like it has sold out, but again, we got our first look at the packaging for this. So, and again, this I'm pretty sure this is a Target exclusive. Actually, I don't really know if it's a Target exclusive. I just know Target is the only place up until this point that's had it available. If you're into mobile games, Mattel announced a new Toy Box Unlocked mobile game coming, and He-Man looks like will be one of the characters you can play in it. And then finally, we talked about the teasers that were released for the new Masters of the Universe Origins Despera figure, but now full images have been revealed. So this, again, is going up on the Mattel Creations website. Looks like it's a Mattel Creations exclusive. Looks pretty good overall. Now, strangely enough, this looks like is going up for pre-order tomorrow on Saturday for Club Grayskull members, and then the 25th everywhere else, which is Sunday. So I don't know why they're putting this up on a Saturday and a Sunday, especially on a holiday weekend, but there you go. And so the images come via Mattel Creations UK, but there was a listing on the Mattel Creations. So again, unless there's a last minute change, it looks like this figure is supposed to go up starting this weekend. Another in-art figure available for pre-order. This wolf-looking guy, Black Myth Wukong. So, we talked about the Harry Potter one. These things are not cheap. Well, this one's cheaper than the Harry Potter one. This one's only $50. Stands, let's see, it's a 1/12 scale figure. Stands about 4.3 inches tall. So I guess for a 4.3 inch tall figure, $50 is still pretty expensive, but there you go. We talked about this set. It is now available on the Jazzwares website, their Vault website. It is an AEW Archive Golf Card Attack 3-pack. So with Broken Matt Hardy and Kenny Omega and Sammy Guevara. So again, that is now available. I don't think it's sold out. $60. Being sold exclusively on the Jazzwares Vault website. Storm Collectibles, we had seen a preview for this one, but now it is available for pre-order. So this is the arena version of Saiget from Street Fighter. So not as expensive as the regular version. I think it's $30, at least a big $38 at Big Bad Toy Store. Still cheaper than the regular version. So it looks pretty good. If you're into Street Fighter. I get 2 heads, fire effect, hands, a stand. So I forget what other accessories the regular version had. This has less accessories and stuff, but still, you get decent amount of stuff. Also, I'll tell you, Jada Toys, Blanca figure and Saiget, I think, have started to see release at some places. This breaking news, pre-order Dark Horse Mondo Doom Eternal Doomslayer figure. This is a 1/6 scale figure, the Crimson variant. This is up at Big Bad Toy Store. So this is a 1/6 scale figure. Mondo. $295 if you want to add that one to your collection. Barbie, Doctor Who mashup. I don't watch Doctor Who. I'm not. I assume this is based on the new Doctor Who, but I really know very little about Doctor Who myself. I've never watched a single episode of Doctor Who, so. But these are new Barbie from Mattel, available at Entertainment Earth. I talked about this before briefly, but Hasbro has launched the first episode of their new remastered Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. The first episode's available on YouTube. Again, it's been remastered, so the idea kind of behind this, not only to appeal to old fans, but who might want to go back and rewatch the show, assuming they don't own it on DVD or whatever. But the idea, I think, is to get kids to start watching it on YouTube and get them expose a new generation of kids, so they can then go out and buy the new Playmate stuff. That's what I was told at Toy Fair, anyway. Let's see what else we got. From Boss Fight Studio, we've got some new 5.5 inch Conan figures. So, Red Sonja, Conan, and the Skeletal Guardian are available for pre-order places like Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth. So, see a number of companies doing this 5.5 kind of retro style of figure. So, if you want to do Conan, Boss Fight Studio has the figures for you. Here's some official images for the next round of Sega figures. These are 4-inch figures. Revenge of Shinobi Joe character, and then from Golden Axe, the Thunderhead figure. So if you've been collecting these, you might want to check these out. These will be sold here in the US at Walmart stores. So Walmart is the place to look for these. I know these have been available on Walmart Canada's website, but I don't think they've been made available yet on the US site. Just want to make sure we covered all biggies. Figma, um, Doom Dark Ages Figma figure from Good Smile Company, which has resumed shipping stuff to the United States. They had put a temporary pause. However, you will have to pay, a tariff fee for stuff that comes in. But again, this is a preview for their Figma Doom the Dark Ages figure. No other details at this time. I think that pretty much brings us up to date, except for G.I. Joe and Marvel. So I told you guys on Wednesday that we were going to be getting G.I. Joe classified pre-orders next Thursday. Well, that has now been pushed to June 4th. So no G.I. Joe classified pre-orders next week, but again, June 4th. I have not, there's been no announcement yet, but I honestly would not be shocked if we end up getting a G.I. Joe live stream. Also, June is G.I. Joe June. So I'm thinking either the second or third. I would not be surprised at all if we end up getting a G.I. Joe live stream from Hasbro. And one of the reasons why I say that is because from what I've seen, the figures that are slated to go up for pre-order this next round, which again now will be June 4th, are all or primarily figures that Hasbro's not announced or shown renders for. So um, and just to throw out a couple of names that I've seen, looks like we new Flash figure and wetsuit. So I think a Cobra Night Trooper is on tap. I've also been seeing some suggestions that mobile missile system with the General Hawk figure that in the last live stream was said to was going to be an Amazon exclusive. It looks like that might have changed and will be available everywhere. So again, pre-orders were pushed to June 4th. Again, I am thinking very good chance that we will see a live stream before then. Probably not next week because we've got the Hasbro live stream on the 28th, but I'm thinking, early the following week, either on that Monday or Tuesday, they'll end up announcing a G.I. Joe live stream. So if that happens, I'll be sure to update you guys. Just looking for. I showed you on Wednesday. So I was looking for the images of the mobile missile system with General Hawk, the render that they had released, but I'm not finding another name I heard, but I don't think it's something they might reveal, but I don't think you're going to see for pre-order. A Budo figure looks like might be in the works for G.I. Joe Classified as well. But I won't swear to that one. And then finally, let's talk Marvel Legends. So just want to update you a little bit. So since we talked on Wednesday, a live stream for Marvel Legends has been announced. It's taking place next Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Dan Yun T's Fantastic Four. As I told you on Wednesday, those I expected those to be going up for pre-order on Friday. I will say with almost 99.9% certainty that you will see the Fantastic Four wave go up for pre-order next Friday. at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Should be available everywhere. From what I've seen, it's going to be a 6-figure wave. I'm about 98% sure that there will not be a Build-A-Figure. No indication of a Build-A-Figure, plus it's a 6-figure wave. We generally don't see Build-A-Figure pieces with 6-figure waves, so that's why I'm making the strong assumption that there will not be a Build-A-Figure. Looks like the figures in the wave will include Reed Richards, Sue Storm, The Thing, Johnny Storm in human form, and I'm assuming will be in their Fantastic Four uniforms that we've seen in the trailers, including Reed Richards that doesn't have the white around the neck, and everyone else does for some reason. But that, I believe, is going to be for the figures. And then Human Torch, Johnny Storm Flamed On, will be the 5th figure, and Silver Surfer should be the 6th figure. So I'm pretty sure that will be your wave of Fantastic Four movie figures that, again, will be going up for pre-order on Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Now, I expect... So 2 things. Just because Hasbro on multiple occasions has said they don't like to reveal for the very first time MCU figures in their live streams, and I have no idea why that is, but they've said that before. I would not be shocked if we end up getting the actual reveal before the live stream through either a corporate media site or even on Hasbro Pulse or something. So again, maybe they'll wait until the stream and show them for the first time during the stream, but I would not be surprised if we end up actually seeing these figures revealed before the stream. So we'll just have to wait and see. But again, almost definitely you should be seeing these figures go up for pre-order next Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And I don't know what the prices will. I don't have price points on these, so that's something we'll have to wait and see. But going back to the live stream, I do expect there will be more things revealed. Even if they wait until the live stream to actually show off the Fantastic Four figures, and if they show off the images beforehand, they will definitely still have the figures and show them off during the stream. Either way, and again, Dan Young's even suggested that. So either way, we will be seeing Fantastic Four figures in the stream. But I expect we will be seeing more than just the Fantastic Four. I can only speculate. Again, we talked a little bit about this on Wednesday, but I continue the Spider-Man Magic figures I talked about on Wednesday. I would not be surprised if those get announced during the live stream. X-Men, the next wave of X-Men 97, I think has a decent possibility of being revealed during the next live stream. I know a lot of people are waiting to see the Marvel versus Capcom figures that have been long rumored. I feel like they might wait until San Diego Comic-Con to reveal those, but we'll have to see. And this likely will be the last live stream that they do, at least based on what Dan Young said before the previous live stream. The last live stream they did, Dan Young said that there would be one more live stream between that live stream and San Diego Comic-Con. So I don't think there'll be, after next week's live stream, I don't think there'll be I'm not saying there won't be reveals, but major reveals, happening until San Diego Comic-Con in July. So unless something's changed, and that's always possible. But going by what Daniel has said previously, this likely would be the only, the last live stream before San Diego Comic-Con. Now I've lost my train of thought. I'm still I've got a pretty, as far as those Spider-Man Magic figures, again, we talked about those on Wednesday. I didn't give you any specifics other than obviously we will be seeing a Spider-Man figure. And as I said on Wednesday, from what I understand, these will be Spider-Man figures with some type of magic card included. I don't really have any specific details. I'm making an assumption that it will be some kind of variant card. So like if you don't own these cards in the figures, it's not going to affect the gameplay of the Spider-Man Magic game, which I know very little about. I don't play Magic. I don't know how it really even works. So I'm no expert on that, but I'm going to guess that the cards aren't going to be instrumental in being able to play the game. But, depending on, some people I know like to be completists and want to have all the cards, you know, will people who just play Magic not like the fact that they would have to go buy a Marvel Legend figure? I don't know. But, and again, I don't know how the cards might vary that are going to be included with the figures might vary from the regular Magic cards, whether they're foil or, just have a Marvel Legend logo on them or whatever. I don't know. Again, I also think good possibility we will finally see the next X-Men 97 wave fully revealed. So these were something I let you guys know about back in November of last year. Originally, this wave was supposed to come out early 2025, then it got pushed to the second part of 2025. As far as I can tell, there has been no changes in the lineup that I reported on back in November, which includes Morph, Jubilee, Emma Frost, Cable, and Robert DaCosta, and Logan listed as casual, which I assume means in his civilian outfit. Um, I know a lot of people are wondering if we're going to get the full details on that Shanna the She Devil figure that they showed us last week. I can't answer that. I'm going to say, and this is purely my guess, if, and this also a guess, that my feeling has been that this Shanna figure is going to be part of this year's San Diego Comic Con exclusive. And if that's the case, then I think likely a very good chance that we will get the full details on this figure. And if there are other figures, which I would guess there would be included, we'll get those details during the live stream. Again, because based on what Daniel has said previously, there will be no more live streams between next Thursday and San Diego Comic Con. So it seems like a perfect time that you would announce your San Diego Comic Con exclusive. So we'll have to wait and see for sure, but I've seen no indication that this is like any kind of general release figure. So that doesn't mean 100% it's not. It could just be a regular store exclusive. But my money, just as purely guess, if I was a betting man, I am going to say that I feel like this is going to be part of this year's San Diego Comic Con exclusive. And as I say, if that is the case, then I feel like pretty decent chance that we will get the details of that during next week's live stream. But all of that is just a guess on my part because I have not seen any information about this figure other than Hasbro showed it off last week and said it was going to be released in 2025. Also, just real quick while we're on Marvel, it was announced for you movie folks. It was announced last night that Doomsday and Secret Wars have had their release dates, their theatrical release dates pushed. So originally, both these movies, Doomsday was going to be released in May of next year, and then Secret Wars was going to be released in May of the following year, 2027. And now the dates have been pushed to December for both. So December 18th for Doomsday, 2026, and December 17th, 2027 for Secret Wars. Looks like Marvel is pulling back on the number of movies that they're going to be releasing. They pulled off several untitled figures from their calendar. As it stands right now, we are only looking at two Marvel movies to be released next year. And originally, the first one was going to be Doomsday, but now it's going to be the Spider-Man movie, which is still, as far as I know, slated for July 31st of 2026. So the brand new day Spider-Man movie. But that's going to now come before Doomsday. So as it stands, we're going to get Fantastic Four First Steps released this July. And then we're not going to get another movie Fantastic Four comes out on the 25th of this July, and then we're not going to get another Marvel movie, MCU movie, until July 31st of next year with Spider-Man. And main thing is, I originally thought that like the story wise, you know, Doomsday would feed into Spider-Man, which would then feed into Secret Wars. But I guess that's not the case, since they are moving. Now Doomsday is going to come after Spider-Man. So I guess the connection between those two movies is not going to be major unless they end up moving the date for Spider-Man. But at this time, that doesn't seem to be the case. And besides, I think they're just shrinking the number of Marvel movies. Feige has said that he feels like oversaturation has played some role in the decline of Marvel movie viewership, and so I think they're pulling back. Also, December generally seems to get them bigger audiences into the theaters as they go into the holidays and stuff. So I think that's another reason why they moved the movies to December. One other thing I want to talk about, no major update. I continue to keep track of Diamond Select Toys and Diamond and everything that's been going on with that. We talked about, obviously this past weekend, the news came out that Diamond Select Toys was shutting down, that pretty much all the staff, or most of the staff, was let go last weekend after the new owners took over. The asset purchase was completed last Friday, and then immediately the new owners started laying people off all throughout Diamond Distributors. I'm hearing that for all intents and purposes, Diamond has kind of ceased even their distribution of comics, which I don't know where that leaves comic book shops. Hopefully comic book stores, saw the writing on the wall and started moving away from Diamond as their sole distributor for things. But again, it's sounding like a real mess. The new owners are not being very communicative. It was announced this week that Penguin Random House Publishing was no longer, they were cutting ties with Diamond. So I think that includes things like Boom Studios and stuff. Will no longer be distributed through Diamond Comics. And again, I don't follow the comic industry and stuff. I know a lot of I know a lot of publishers that already started breaking away from Diamond. It used to be Diamond was really the only place you could go to get your comics, but now, in more recent months and years, which I think is what led to Diamond ending up declaring the bankruptcy at the beginning of the year. Other publishers started moving away from Diamond. So hopefully the shops, followed suit, so that essentially all their eggs are not in one basket. But as far as Diamond Select Toys, the big open question remains, will they fill any of their open pre-orders? And so far, nobody has stopped taking pre-orders, including the Diamond website itself. But I've talked to a couple of different retailers, and they still feel that the most likely outcome here is going to be that most open pre-orders will simply just be canceled. Now, that's not set in stone. It's not been officially announced. But again, the retailers I've talked to seem to feel that is what's going to end up happening. So we will just have to wait and see. But again, and we talked about this on Wednesday, but my feeling was if something has actually made it here to the U.S., that stuff probably would end up getting filled, but anything beyond that probably will end up just getting canceled. And, not having any idea what might already be, sitting in a warehouse somewhere here in the United States, there's no way to determine what might get released and what not. But I feel like if there are things that are here in the U.S., those might end up eventually getting released before everything completely shuts down. But again, they've been laying off a good majority of the employees. So if there's nobody left around to do anything, even if the product is here in the United States, it's going to be a very slow process to get things out. And again, from what I'm understanding, the new owners are not being very communicative with anybody. So, there's just a lot of confusion going on right now. Um, there's something else I was going to say, but now I can't think of it. But again, a messy situation. I feel bad for, especially the comic book shops. Online e-tailers. I don't think have really ever used primarily Diamond Distributors as their primary distributor, but definitely comic book shops have. But hopefully, like I say, most comic book shop owners have kind of been seeing the writing on the wall for some time, and have had started taking steps to be able to alleviate any damage this might cause their businesses. All right, let's see what you guys are saying. Buff says Cyborg Superman from McFarlane hopefully goes up for pre-order other places. I agree with you. I hope so too. I think the regular Cyborg Superman, that's a possibility, and I think it'll definitely like show up at Target since they've got that red one as an exclusive. But yes, I agree with you. Virtual Dave from the UK, good to see you, my friend. Jim Ruby, what's up, my friend? Action figure enthusiast, love the avatar with the Captain America shield. Chris, what makes the Cyborg Superman so difficult to get? This should be widely available. Well, what makes it so difficult to get is it hasn't been widely made available. Like I say, I believe here in the United States, GameStop is the only place that has offered it. And I have seen some people like that it was briefly available online on GameStop's website, and I've seen some people have received their Cyborg Superman. I think some people have found it at physical stores, but right now it's still a fairly limited release, which is, and it's a popular figure. I think every Superman fan wants that Cyborg Superman. So it is, one of those that I think is hugely popular, and at least right now, the release of it has not been very widespread. That I think, or at least hope that changes, but we'll have to see. Figure Fury, what is up? Alonzo is in the house. What is up? Rasalan says, can't wait for that 2-pack. So excited for the Masters of the Universe set. Looks good. Vintage He-Man. I assume Chris is talking about the He-Man 2-pack from Target. He-Man's not been around for 80 years. You're right, he hasn't. Is that a... maybe it's celebrating Mattel's anniversary. Yeah, it's not. It's an 80th anniversary set, but it's celebrating Mattel's anniversary, which has been around 80 years, not He-Man's anniversary. So a little confusing there, but that good question, because yes, He-Man has not been around 80 years, but the 80 years is celebrating 80 years of Mattel, not 80 years of Masters of the Universe. The one with the Flash was the chimp, not the gorilla. It was like the cyborg gorilla. But you didn't. The thing about the Flash one was weird is like the Batman one and the upcoming Superman one came with both a 7-inch figure and a smaller figure to be a little more in scale with the monster, but they didn't do that with the Flash. Though I don't know how big that character is in the comics, so maybe that's why. Maybe he's not nearly as big as King Kong. Mr. Allmine, what is up? Figure Fear, I'm curious to see arena figures. I've seen like some people have the Ken figure in hand, the Arena Street Fighter Ken, and throw up images, but I don't think anybody's done comparisons with the Jada figure. So I don't, at least that I've seen. I've seen some like comparison with other figures. I've seen comparison of the regular Ken with the Arena Ken, but I have not seen anyone throw up Arena comparison with Jada toys. Judge Dredd's ordered Red Sonja too. The others cost too much. That's the head sculpt on that Conan figure for a boss fight. That's actually a pretty nice looking head sculpt. That's not really my style of figure, but I did like the head sculpt on that Conan figure. Mr. Allmine says, "Yo, Joe." A Buddha would be kind of cool. Would love to see mainframe. I was thinking dial tone. We've gotten dial tone, but not mainframe yet. But wetsuit, which kind of goes with that era of Joe's, is coming. So especially if you have like the new leather neck, leather neck and wetsuit were always kind of like frenemies in the cartoon. Welcome, John from Ireland. As always, good to see you here. Henry G, good to see you, my friend. What's up? I can't catch the live stream with the new schedule, but I'm glad I could pop in real quick today. Say hello. Hopefully, you're still here. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you have a great weekend. I should be. I'm thinking I'll be back on Monday. Monday's technically a holiday, but so we'll play not because it's a holiday, but depending on whether there's enough news to talk about between now and then. But I feel like decent chance. So um, hopefully, well, I'm going to say hopefully you guys are out having fun or doing something, barbecuing or paying tribute to our soldiers or whatever on Monday. But if not, or you got some time to kill, if I do ending up doing a show, hopefully you guys were able to catch it who aren't working that day. Judge Dredd. So Diamond spent a lot of money on toys that we will never get. Sounds pretty fucking stupid. Well, bankruptcy will do. That you spend money, but when you owe a lot of money and you got to declare bankruptcy, and then you no longer have money to finish what you started, unfortunately, that's often how the way it goes. That's actually a point though. Like I keep seeing these questions, like, well, so like say Diamond itself is completely shut down and nothing more gets released through Diamond. Okay, will we ever see any of this stuff get released through any other company? And that's a question I cannot answer. Um, Obviously, Ad Populum, which is basically the one who now owns Diamond Select Toys, also owns NECA Toys. But I don't know as far as licensing goes. So obviously, anything that Diamond actually owned, the new owner gets. Okay, but if it's a license, like say, let's take Marvel Select. I don't know how long the existing license that Diamond Select had with Disney and Marvel, when that current license was set to expire. Will that license, does that license, can Ad Populum, who obviously is dissolving Diamond Select Toys, essentially, can they just take how forever long that license is slated to last? Can they just take that license and switch it to say NECA Toys and give it to NECA Toys and say, you're going to make Marvel Select figures now until the current license expires, and then we'll try and renegotiate or whatever. I don't know. I don't know enough about licensing to be able to sit here and tell you if that's even something that's doable, or if essentially the license ends when Diamond Select Toys ends, and then a new license would have to be renegotiated between Disney and whatever external parties are interested. So again, I can't answer that question. I certainly think it's possible you could end up, that somebody other company, whether it's NECA or whoever, could pick up some of these licenses that Diamond was doing. Um, and if they do, then it's very possible that any product that had been in production could end up getting released through that new company. That somewhere down the road. We're not talking about in a few weeks or something, or even this year, but down the road that's possible. And we saw that, something similar to that when DC Direct, the original DC Direct, shut down, and then McFarlane Toys was able to acquire the DC Direct stuff, and then ended up eventually releasing many of the DC Direct products that were in the pipeline at the time of the shutdown that they ended up were able to release through McFarlane Toys. So that is certainly possible, but at this stage nobody knows. I just think, and the reason why people are making the assumption that the stuff that's been open for pre-order won't get released through Diamond Select Toys, primarily because they are, again, just essentially shutting Diamond Select. From everything we've heard, they're just shutting Diamond Select Toys down. So they've laid off the majority of the staff and all of that. So there's really nobody left to even do that. Ad Populum could have, I suppose, kept Diamond Select Toys operating and left it as its own entity, just like NECA Toys or some of the other Whiz Kids or some of the other Ruby Costumes. That same company owns all those different companies. So they could have kept, if they wanted to, Diamond Select Toys open, I suppose. But for whatever reason, they seem to be going in the route where they're just bringing it to a close, and then we'll see what they end up doing. We'll see what they can do with the licenses that were under Diamond Select Toys, or what they want to do. All those licenses may not have been profitable. I mean, there's quite possible some of those licenses were costing Diamond Select Toys money, at which point the new owners may decide it's not worth continuing with them. But others, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, so I would, again, assuming Diamond Select Toys doesn't get anything released that's open for pre-order right now, under Diamond Select Toys, that doesn't necessarily mean sometime down the road we couldn't see someone else pick up the license and then end up releasing stuff that was in mid-production or whatever. I really hope that the Shayna figure is not San Diego Comic-Con exclusive and potentially difficult to get. If it is, I hope they make it available. Well, definitely. Well, not. I doubt we'd see it at Fan Channel retailers. If it is a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, I'm sure they will allocate a certain number to be available on Hasbro Pulse, like they always do. Um, and again, that's purely a guess on my part. It's just that type of, when I look at that figure, it just to me reeks of San Diego Comic-Con exclusive material, type of figure that Hasbro likes to do for San Diego. Again, I've seen no indication of it being a general release, so that's another thing that leads me to believe that it's at least going to be some kind of exclusive, and best choice would just be San Diego. But we'll have to see. I mean, remember last year they did the Death's Head figure, which technically was not a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, but it was released first at San Diego Comic-Con, but then eventually they made it available everywhere. So I guess that's another possibility. But again, hopefully we'll get those details next week. Judge Dredd says the only thing at my Walmart is dusty shelves. Dog meat. Hasbro missing out on the Marvel Rivals hype train. They could be printing money with figures based on that game. Well, we've talked about that, but you also have to remember, it's not like it takes a long time from initial planning to production to getting a figure out. So by the time Hasbro and Marvel and stuff realized how popular that game was, at that point they may let's do figures, but you're going to have a delay. So I think next year, I think definitely a possibility we could see some rival figures. Not that I've seen anything to suggest that, but it would, again, I wouldn't be shocked if at some point. But you can't just say, oh, that's really hot, let's get some figures out for that right away. That it just doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Jamel says he found Cyborg Superman at Walmart. So there's another place, another physical place. Walmart online has not made that available. I think the only place to sell it online was GameStop so far. And that's another new thing that we've kind of been seeing with McFarlane, where they're limiting the online availability, it seems like, for a lot of these figures, which I talked about this on Wednesday. You know, my feeling is McFarlane is trying to force people to go into physical stores to buy his figures and not just sit at home and buy online. He wants you to go into Targets and Walmarts to buy his figures. And then from everything I'm seeing, just like you guys sitting on the outside looking in, suggests that they're making it more difficult to buy something online and hoping that you go into a physical store to try and find it. The mass figure collector, hope you and the family are doing it. Yeah, we're doing pretty good. Hopefully, you as well, you and your family. I totally see NECA taking in the Marvel and 7-inch license unless McFarlane takes over those. McFarlane. Well, and again, if the current owners can just say, we have control of this license until it expires, whenever that is, and and they can just hand it to NECA, then I think definitely NECA would be the most likely candidate to see, at least for a while. Again, we have no idea when the existing license expires. The original license between Diamond Select Toys and Marvel, when that was set to expire. But if legality lets the new owner take that license and let essentially NECA make it without having to renegotiate the license or anything. And again, this is where I just don't know enough about licensing to be able to say whether that's how it works or not. Then again, to me, NECA would be the most likely. If the license has basically come again, as Diamond is shut down, that license ends and therefore has to be renegotiated, and any company can try and negotiate for it, then you might see a McFarlane try and jump in and grab it or what have you. Um, I mean, NECA could still try and compete for it and could get it, and maybe at least they have an advantage since the current owners are I don't know, but so it really depends on how that works. But if I had to pick, if someone and there's another question, is it a lucrative enough license for someone to want to take over? Because you got to remember, there are a lot of limitations on that Marvel Select license, okay? So, like, one of the reasons why I might see McFarlane not interested in Marvel Select is because he wouldn't be able to sell that product on the shelves of Walmart and Target. McFarlane, as I just said, McFarlane likes you to go into these physical big box stores to find his figures. But Diamond Select Toys was never allowed to sell Marvel Select figures at the big box retailers because that is too much competition with Hasbro and Marvel Legends. So there are a lot of limitations a company has to follow if they take that Marvel Select license. It has to be sold in a limited capacity. I think they can only do a limited number of figures a year. Articulation, I think it maybe even has to be limited. These are just things I've heard. I can't say 100, but over the years I've heard. Um, so again, there's a lot of limitations so that they're not in direct competition with the primary license holder, which is Hasbro and Marvel Legends for that type of figure. It's a very limited thing. So again, would McFarlane even be interested in doing Marvel Select Toys if he can't sell the figures, if he can only sell the figures at select online e-tailers and comic book stores? I don't know. Maybe, especially if he wants to try and get his foot in the door with, continue to get his foot in the door with Marvel so that maybe one day he could try and take over Marvel Legends. I don't know. Not, if you look at it from that way, like a NECA would seem more like, I feel like NECA would be more interested in getting the license because, NECA still does a lot of stuff that is just sold, unless it's an exclusive, just sold through online, channels. But that's something you have to take into consideration when you think about like the Marvel Select line. The Psylocke is rumored to be in a 2-pack, but that's part of the Marvel versus Capcom subline. So I certainly, it's possible they could show those off. My personal feeling, and this is just speculation again, they're going to hold off until San Diego to start showing those, but I could be wrong on that. Do I think Mattel will announce anything DC related at San Diego? I'm going to say no, because from what I understand, McFarlane has the license, the collector oriented. So let me rephrase: kid oriented stuff, maybe, because I believe the kid oriented Spin Master license ends at the end of this year. The Spin Master license, I believe, I won't swear to it, but that's what I heard, ends at the end of this year, while the McFarlane license for the collector stuff, and part of this, it's how it was phrased in the press release that Mattel put out. Mattel said they would be taking over the collector stuff in the middle of next year, not at the beginning. So I don't think we'll see anything collector oriented while McFarlane is still generally. I don't know if it's legal wise or just honoring, not trying to step on the toes of the company that has the current license, but I entirely expect McFarlane will keep putting out DC figures until next year. So generally the stuff that you see at San Diego is stuff that is slated for release at the beginning of the following year, not the middle. So I think probably Toy Fair next year is when we will really start to see what Mattel is going to be offering for DC collectors, um, when they take over the license, not at San Diego. Originally, when the announcement was first made, and I was thinking the McFarlane license ended at the end of this year, I was thinking that we would start to see stuff at San Diego. But then when I realized that it looks like McFarlane is keeping the license until the middle of next year, then just based on how I've seen this work in the past, my guess is we will see start to see Mattel's offerings at Toy Fair next February, not at San Diego in July this year. This year at San Diego, McFarlane will continue to show off whatever remaining DC products that they're going to be releasing, and then Mattel will kind of start to take the reins with Toy Fair next year. The Watcher. GameStop still has MSRP at $31.99. Marvel Legends and Black Series, and they are supposed to be lowering the MSRP back down. GameStop raised those prices themselves. Again, originally when the Chinese tariffs were at 145%, it looked like those were the prices Hasbro was going to be raising their MSRP to offset that 145% tariff cost. But then they held off on doing that when the tariffs got put on hold and then were reduced to 30%. So GameStop, for whatever reason, and Amazon to some extent, but we talked about this on last Wednesday. GameStop is just like, they're drunk with their prices. So let's last time we checked, Maximum Hulk was priced at the $63. So let's click on the link and see where we are today. I think we're back down to $59.99. We are. So Amazon has once again reduced their price to $59.99 on that Hulk. So this is like the 20th time they've changed the price on this thing. So for all we know, by the end of the day, it could be back up to $63. And again, I have no explanation for why the prices keep fluctuating on Amazon, but that's Amazon. The Guardian 2-pack, which had been raised, is back down to $49. That was back down to $49 when we talked on Wednesday, so that has not gone back up. You can see here, this Spider-Man Gamerverse figure, see, I kid you not, like, I checked this site just a few minutes before going live. This Spider-Man figure was back down to $24.99, and now it's back at $31.99. So I don't know. It's just crazy stuff. G.I. Joe classified figures. So you can see this retro is this. You also have to make sure when you're looking at prices that it is Amazon selling it. But yeah, so you can see this retro collection rock and roll figure is $32. Now this is in stock. So this has, Amazon has paid. I don't know when this figure actually, basically, again, the way the tariff situation works is you don't get charged the tariff until your product comes through customs. So it really depends, what somebody sets the price at will depend on what the tariff was set at when this actually came through customs. So since I don't know when this figure came through customs, I guess it's possible that this figure came through customs during that brief period when the tariffs were at 145%, and that's why Amazon is selling it at $32. Now, going back to that Hulk figure, which they haven't even gotten in stock, it doesn't explain why they keep going back and forth on price. But, you can see like the Dr. Mindbender figure, which is part of that same wave, is priced at $25, but it doesn't look like they have it in stock. So that's probably why it's at a lower price. So, but GameStop, again, they just decided back when Hasbro was going to raise their prices, they just decided to go on and raise their prices, and they have not any indication that they're lowering their prices back down. Even though the tariffs got lowered to 30%, they're still keeping their prices pretty high. So, but the thing about that is I would not buy any of those figures from GameStop. I wouldn't buy $32. I wouldn't buy this rock and roll from Amazon right now, even though I don't know if this price will come down at all. But I think you can go to Hasbro Pulse or Big Bad Toy Store. Definitely, if you pre-ordered these figures at those places before May 9th, you're only going to get charged the original price. But you really have to, while all this tariff stuff's going on, you really have to, if money is a factor for you, you really have to shop around and try and find the lowest price out there. Because you've just got so many varying prices all across the board that, Again, Hasbro has not raised their MSRP on any of these figures yet. So what you're seeing are retailers adjusting their prices to offset the tariffs they're having to pay when these figures come through customs. And whatever the tariff was at when the figure comes through customs, that's the cost that they're essentially passing on to you. But these are not Hasbro MSRP prices, which is why you're not seeing the price increases all across the board. But most of these figures for G.I. Joe on Amazon are back down to $24.99. And Star Wars, again, so this Ahsoka Anakin figure, $32. This doesn't look like is yet in stock. Should be in stock in a few days though. Whereas the Captain Rex figure is $25. This is in stock now. You can, if you buy it, looks like it'll be delivered tomorrow. So this is in stock now. So I'm assuming there's no price increase on this one because when it came through customs, Amazon didn't have to pay a tariff on it, or a high tariff at least. Now, while we're on the subject of tariffs, we are starting to hear tariff talk again from the president. He's threatening to put a 50% tariff on the EU, and that's right now looks like might go in place June 1st. I don't think that will have a huge bearing on the toy industry. China is really the big one to watch out for tariffs as far as the toy industry. But again, trade wars talk is ramping up again. Levies placed on iPhones is being talked about, so we may see prices on iPhones go up here. But it's a continuing fluctuating situation. I believe, China and the U.S. are expected to hold talks again in the fairly near future. My hope is that the current 30% tariff will go down to 10%, because it's two tariffs that are on China right now. There's a 10% tariff, and then there was a 20% tariff due to fentanyl. And I'm hoping that fentanyl tariff ends up getting removed. My speculation is the 10% tariff will probably become permanent, or at least be in place for a fairly long time. But 10% is still a hell of a lot better than 30% or 45, 50% or 145%. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. But again, like I said, this is a continually fluctuating situation, and businesses are having to kind of deal with this on the fly. All right, well, we're over the hour here, so just want to let you guys know, last count before going on today, we were still sitting at 53 action figure enthusiast members, so we've kind of come to a little bit of a plateau, but as I've said before, when we hit 60, we will do another contest giveaway, so if you're thinking about it. Also, free action figure enthusiast members, I made a post yesterday. I gave you kind of a jump on the information on the Fantastic Four wave. So I might do that more, where I, not going to do videos probably, but, make a community post that's just available to action figure enthusiast members, giving you some inside information before it's more generally publicly known. So just as a little added benefit. So if you want to become an action figure enthusiast member, again, there's a link in the video description below. It is just 99 cents. So, and it's just kind of an extra way of helping support the channel. I appreciate everybody who watches these videos, whether you're an action figure enthusiast member or not, but definitely just kind of like to give the little extra teeny bonus to those that go that little extra mile. All right, guys. So again, leave it up in the air about whether I'm going to be on Monday or not. Just will depend on how much news comes out between now and then. If we've got enough to talk about, then I'll be here on Monday. If not, then I'll definitely be here on Wednesday. Next week's definitely Marvel Legends live stream on Thursday. We've got some Marvel McFarlane pre-orders. Might get some more updates on G.I. Joe Classified, but again, that looks like it's pushed until June. So no pre-orders definitely next week for G.I. Joe Classified, Marvel Legends and McFarlane next week. But June is definitely, I think, looking to start to pick back up. And then, of course, we'll be heading into July, which is always busy with San Diego Comic-Con. All right, guys, so stay safe out there. Have a great weekend. If you've got a long weekend, hopefully you can relax, enjoy it with family or friends. And until next time, guys, I will catch you later. Thanks for watching today's video. Now, if you're new to the channel, please think about hitting that subscribe button. Also hit the bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. For all the latest action figure news, be sure to head over to ToyNewsEye.com, MarvelousNews.com, JediInsider.com, and TFormers.com. And remember, action figures are great,